Chapter 726, Self-Death Path. In the back row of the auditorium, Zhou Chong and Chen Shuai were dumbfounded when they saw Han Qingwu, and a chill ran up their spines straight to the back of their heads. Other than the different attire, the looks and figure were identical, so it was absolutely Han Qingwu. The duo recalled the time when they tried to talk to her, and as they thought about how mistaken their actions were, they were so scared that they nearly wet their pants. Gulp, it feels so good to be alive. Chen Shuai's throat squirmed, and his trembling right hand wiped off the cold sweat on his forehead. He was afraid to even imagine what would happen if Han Qingwu were to hit them back in the red pavilion. Even if they did not die, they would be left only half alive. Zhou Chong, on the other hand, unfastened his buttons as though wanting to unleash the depression pressing his chest. Though Jimu slapped him a few times and made him regret that he should not have annoyed Han Qingwu, he regretted it the most at this moment. It was because those who could participate in the underground fighting match, all the way down to the finals, were absolutely not people he could afford to provoke. Chen Shuai, I was a bit resentful towards Jimu previously, but now I can't find myself to hate him. I'm even feeling very grateful.
Yeah,
me too. Chen Shuai nodded with lingering fear inside as he recalled he had annoyed Han Qingwu. If she wanted to beat them both, wouldn't they be dead already? On the stage, Black Widow smiled after introducing the four fighters, and then summoned a beautiful girl, took a sealed box from her and placed it in the center of the ring. She then smiled and said, "There are 4 cards in this box. 2 great kings and 2 small kings. Each fighter will draw 1, the matches will be small king versus small king and great king versus great king. The winner of each match will then fight in the final." It was a lottery, a very fair grouping method, so the 4 fighters did not object to it. The result came out soon. Han Qingwu and Savage Beast Li Tong drew small king cards, whereas Iron Fist Jin Can and Ladyboy Wu Tong drew great king cards. After Black Widow announced the pairing matches, the 4 fighters went to the backstage to prepare themselves. The first round would be the small kings and the second match would be the great kings. The small king match would start at 8:30 and the fighters had 20 minutes to prepare. In the audience, Li Laoshan gazed at the back of Han Qingwu as she left and lightly furrowed his brows. He really could not figure out why Tang Xiu would choose Han Qingwu. He had seen her fighting in more than 10 matches and had some estimation in regards to her combat prowess. She was not by any means weak since her strength and speed could be said to be one of the best. And yet, she exposed her biggest flaw during the competition: she was too kind. The underground fighting match was the kind of fight where the fighters' moves would either be to inflict injury or to kill. But the most serious injuries Han Qingwu inflicted on her opponents in her several matches were only breaking several of their ribs, or dislocating their arms. That was when she was forced into a miserable state, so she didn't have a choice but to go all out. Brother Tang. Li Laoshan did not want to spend 100 million of his own money for naught, so he hesitated and shouted, a shout that carried his regret. At this time, he was questioning Tang Xiu with an ugly expression. Tang Xiu glanced at him and lightly smiled, relax. She promised me to win this game. She'll become the champion even if she has to pay the price, that's for sure. You know Han Qingwu? Asked Li Laoshan, startled and astounded. I came here with her this time, else I wouldn't have known there was an underground fighting competition, explained Tang Xiu. Li Laoshan's unsettled and fidgety heart immediately turned at ease as he rubbed his hands and grinned. Well, then I can rest my heart easy since she came with you, Brother Tang. Losing money is just a trivial matter, but I'm hella sure old Chu will laugh at me. Chu Xueching frowned, and there was a solemn look in his eyes. He really could not understand why Li Laoshan trusted Tang Xiu so much. 8:30 p.m. Han Qingwu, still donning her original attire, a black training suit, valiantly entered the ring from the backstage. Her expression was cold, and there was neither dread nor contempt when she saw the fierce and cruel-looking Li Tong. Her eyes swept past Tang Xiao and then landed on the host, Black Widow. Black Widow did not waste any more time as she immediately announced the start of the fight and left the ring. If it was a regular boxing match, the referee would stay in the ring and use the so-called rules to restrain the boxer, but the underground fighting match had no rules. One could use any means, however shameless they were, once they stepped onto the ring. They were even allowed to use any weapons but firearms. Li Tong smacked his lips when he stared at Han Qingwu and grinned hideously, Ice Phoenix Han Qingwu. Encountering such a beauty like you in the underground fighting arena is really a rare occasion. Nevertheless, I, Li Tong, will have mercy on you if you admit defeat now. Spare the bullshit, let's just prove it through our fists, said Han Qingwu coldly. Disregarding dangers and having no idea of death, eh? Li Tong evilly grinned. Fine. Don't blame me for destroying your beauty with a heavy blow. Han Qingwu did not respond, as her elegant stature dashed and instantly appeared in front of Li Tong in the blink of an eye, the true essence in her body surging and circulating through the meridians all over her body. Humph. Li Tong didn't have the slightest worry. He was very excited after getting paired with Han Qingwu. He had watched all her fights in the competition. He knew that although this woman had quite the speed and strength, she was actually very soft-hearted. If he were to fight the others and win the match, it would probably be a hard-earned victory, but he did not have to worry about being injured heavily and being unable to fight in the next match, as long as he won against Han Qingwu. As his toes stepped on the floor, his legs made a tight stance and swept a kick in a flash. As his body soared and the moment Han Qingwu avoided it, the shadows of his legs joined together and delivered continuous kicks at Han Qingwu. Bam! After a dozen of seconds of strikes, Han Qingwu's arm was finally hit once, but amidst the pain, Han Qingwu's body swayed and she instantly delivered a kick at Li Tong's calf. Die. Li Tong did not want to have a long fight because there was still another match. After that brief counter-strike, he did not want to take a cheap loss, suddenly arousing his savageness. His body was like a hungry tiger as he sent a barrage of punches at Han Qingwu's head. In a flash moment after, his right hand grabbed a dagger from his waist. He was confident that as long as Han Qingwu dared to block his heavy punch, he could then strike her head with this dagger. A cold light flashed in Han Qingwu's eyes. Upon seeing Li Tong use a weapon, she knew that this guy wanted to kill her. She immediately kicked her foot on the floor and made a dash backward. Her palm slapped Li Tong's fist while her left hand's finger pierced his armpit. Puff. As the trajectory of Li Tong's fist deviated, the downward stabbing dagger also instantly shifted. The rugged dagger swept the hair on Han Qingwu's temple, but his body suddenly trembled and a clearly visible wound appeared at his armpit. No one was able to notice that a spurt of true essence was shot out the moment Han Qingwu's finger pierced Li Tong's armpit, and then pierced the acupoint in the wound. As his body flipped over, the heavy hammering came. As Li Tong's body trembled, Han Qingwu had already done a complete set of smooth flowing movements that only showed white, and delicate fists barraging the left side of Li Tong's neck. Crack. Despite having a hard iron-like body, Li Tong's neck was broken as though it was smashed by stone by Han Qingwu's fists. As the sound of the broken bones echoed, his large body flew up for 5+ meters before it heavily fell on the platform. What's going on? How is this possible? This. In the auditorium, the rich men who placed their wagers on Li Tong's win had drastic changes in expression and could not bear shouting. They did not see his heavy punch destroying the bell, and neither did they see him shedding the exquisite peony's blood or hacking her in half. In the back row, a smile painted Tang Xiao's handsome face. He also felt somewhat surprised, as he did not expect that Han Qingwu could actually shoot her true essence out. She was evidently at the peak of qi refining stage, but her being able to achieve this was really a bit unexpected. However, it was her win, an easy one. Li Laohan suddenly turned to look at Tang Xiao and said in pleasant surprise, "How come Han Qingwu be so strong?" Less than half a minute passed and she already won? She has been trained by a specialist, and what she learned was nothing but killing moves, said Tang Xiu with a smile. But still, she is not a bloodthirsty killer and maybe, she has yet to unleash everything she has in her previous fights. In fact, Li Tong is quite a powerful man, and his strength and speed can't be compared to ordinary martial arts grandmasters. Only, he underestimated Han Qingwu's strength as well as her determination. In actuality, he could have lasted for some time and would be even less likely to fall by the edge of the sword if he did not pull out his dagger. Li Laozhan blinked and instantly understood Tang Xiu's explanation. This savage beast Li Tong just created a death path for himself. At the side, Chu Xueqing had an unsightly expression. Although the one he placed his wager on was the ladyboy Wu Tong, yet the combat prowess demonstrated by Han Qingwu was beyond his expectations. He was a martial artist himself, and even though his ability was not as good as Li Laozhan's, he still had keen and sharp eyes. Who would have thought that Han Qingwu, the one he felt less optimistic about, unexpectedly won the match and directly killed savage beast Li Tong? What surprised him the most was how easy it was for her to defeat him. It seemed that not even half a minute had yet to pass from the beginning to the end. Don't tell me Han Qingwu will really become the champion? He glanced at Li Laozhan and even looked at Tang Xiu. After having observed them for a long time, a bitter smile was cast on his face and he secretly shook his head. The fighting match was not over yet, and he did not want to see this result. So he secretly cheered for ladyboy Wu Tong to pass through. The others may not have noticed, but ladyboy Wu Tong had yet to unleash his full power as well, something he was clear about. He once saw him in action outside the underground fighting arena. Back then, this shemale was simply a berserk deity. Chapter 727, Crazy Killing Intent. The next match will be ladyboy Wu Tong's show. It would be best if he could win smoothly, but if he struggled for victory, then the final champion is none other than Han Qingwu. Chu Xueqing thought silently. In another place, behind the seats of the auditorium, Zhou Chong and Chen Shuai exchanged dismayed looks. Their hearts were as though falling into an ice hole as their complexion turned very nasty. To be alive is a great feeling indeed. Now I finally realize the deeper meaning of this sentence. Chen Shuai raised his hand to caress his neck and said bitterly. She's really too strong. For anyone who can go all the way to the top 4 of the underground fighting arena, they are definitely not weak. But even for the savage beast Li Tong to not last for half a minute and be beaten to death by her, Zhou Chong interjected with a complicated expression. Chen Shuai, I'm now very grateful to Ji Mu. If he did not appear in time, I'm afraid that He could not continue speaking anymore after speaking to this point. However, Chen Shuai knew perfectly well what he wanted to say. He took a deep breath and then said, after watching this game, we'll immediately call Ji Mu and ask him when he has time to have dinner with us so as to express our gratitude to him.
Yeah.
Zhou Chong nodded silently. Ji Mu is our savior. Should we send him some gifts as tokens of our gratitude? Asked Chen Shuai. Zhou Chong thought for a moment and said, we must thank him and send him a thank you gift. We gotta discuss the appropriate thank you gift after this fighting match. I heard Ji Mu has been buying precious medicinal herbs in these 2 days. Chen Shuai's expression suddenly moved and spoke in a low voice. Huh? Zhou Chong looked doubtful and wondered, what is Ji Mu buying precious herbs for? Is he ill? Or a family member? I dunno. Chen Shuai shook his head. It's just a rumor, so I'm not really sure. I will, however, tell my friend to ask around after the fighting match. If it's true, then we'll send him some precious herbs. No problem. Zhou Chong nodded and looked pensive. Black Widow, who stood under the ring and watched as savage beast Li Tong was struck and defeated in less than half a minute, could not help but tremble. She was an expert herself, And even though she had yet to reach the martial arts grandmaster level and could be extremely cruel and merciless, she was still shocked nonetheless. What a dreadful person. It turns out that Ice Phoenix Han Qingwu has never unleashed her full power. Her gaze shifted from Han Qingwu and looked at the fallen Li Tong on the floor, who was no longer moving. She shivered and sighed inwardly before she stepped onto the platform again to check his condition. Following that, she walked to Han Qingwu's side and applauded. The Ice Phoenix, Han Qingwu, has really concealed herself too deeply. I now announce that Savage Beast, Li Tong, has died. The winner is Han Qingwu. Ice Phoenix Han Qingwu, you can take a break in the backstage. Your second match will start at 10. Han Qingwu nodded. She glanced at Tang Xiu's direction and immediately replied, then turned around to leave the ring. The second match. After Iron Fist Jing Can and Ladyboy Wu Tong came onto the ring, the two men showcased their soaring fighting intent. Even Tang Xiu, who was sitting in the back row of the auditorium, spared his time to observe the two fighters. Following which, he turned to Chu Xueqing and lightly smiled, "Brother Chu, have good eyes. That Ladyboy Wu Tong seems so weak that even the wind can blow him away, but he's undeniably formidable. Also, he should have killed quite a lot of people. Brother Tang is kidding me. I can't even be compared to you. The one you favor, Han Qingwu, easily killed Savage Beast Li Tong, and the result won't affect her second match. Though this Ladyboy Wu Tong is indeed very strong, yet he would probably be injured and badly battered even if he is able to defeat Iron Fist Jing Can. For him to lose in his second match against Han Qingwu is quite likely." Tang Xiu just smiled in response and did not talk anymore. Han Qingwu was just unwilling to fully unleash her strength. As long as she made up her mind to go for the kill, she would definitely become the champion. Tang Xiu had confidence in her as well as the Everlasting Feast Hall's expert who had taught her. As expected, the close-quarter fight ended very slowly. Iron Fist Jing Can and Ladyboy Wu Tong engaged in an intense fight for more than 10 minutes before the outcome was finally revealed. The winner was the Ladyboy Wu Tong, yet he was also covered with several injuries as well as heavy internal injuries after killing Iron Fist Jing Can. 10 p.m. Black Widow stood in the ring again. Her complexion was a bit unsightly, and there was even faint anger in her eyes. She held the microphone and suppressed her anger as she announced, "Next is our final match. Ice Phoenix Han Qingwu and Ladyboy Wu Tong, please come to the ring." After a while, the two people stood on the ring. Black Widow held her breath and fiercely glared at the injured Ladyboy, Wu Tong, and coldly said, "Without further ado, I announce the match begins. Now." Wu Tong shot a deep gaze at Han Qingwu before he immediately shook his head and said, "To those friends who have placed their bets on me, I can only say I'm sorry to all of you. I'm so seriously injured that I can hardly support myself. Hence, I admit defeat." "You what? You just admitted defeat like that? What the fuck? What prank are you pulling? This last game of the underground fighting match is the one I'm most anticipating. How can it be over like this? This big daddy has already bet 50 million yuan. Hey, Wu Tong. I'll find a way to kill you if you give up. I paid to see you to kill. Show me blood. No balls, dickhead. You'll regret for crossing me." Many rich men stood up and cursed furiously, a lot of them directly throwing out threats. Wu Tong did not stay for long. Despite his strength, the anger of a lot of rich and powerful people was not something he could afford to face. He knew what situation he was in and only a dead end was there for him if he continued the fight. While those rich people would be targeting him after the competition, yet he believed he could preserve his life, and could just leave China if worse came to worst. Han Qingwu was also very surprised, for she never thought that Wu Tong would choose to admit defeat directly. Originally, she planned to resort to killing if Wu Tong had the intention to kill, but now it seemed that her victory was already settled. In the audience, Li Laozhan glanced at the pale Chu Xueqing as he immediately laughed loudly. Old Chu. I never thought to be so lucky today. Not only did I meet Brother Tang here, but also pocketed 700 million yuan as well. Damn, this is really such a great and joyous event. Brother Tang, spare the talk, let's just go to the backstage to exchange this receipt to banknotes. This old Li must treat you to a drink. Tang Xiu only smiled. The reason why he came along with Han Qingwu to Chongxi was that he was afraid she would have an accident in the underground fighting match. He had yet to have an answer from her, and definitely did not want her to die in such a match. What was accidental was that he followed Li Laozhan to gamble and won quite a lot of money. Okay, let's go. Just as Tang Xiu let out a smile, Li Laozhan dragged him away. Ji Mu was similarly looking happy and followed them to the backstage. Though his wager was not much, the odds were quite high, so he also earned quite a lot. Half an hour later, Tang Xiu, Li Laozhan, Ji Mu and Chu Xueqing had already taken the elevator to the surface. Without much delay, Han Qingwu, who had changed clothes, came before them. Happy? Asked Tang Xiu. Han Qingwu nodded. With a smile hanging on her face, she said, of course, winning money is a happy thing. But I'm not thrilled for the match, though, since I was kinda excited to fight that ladyboy Wu Tong. Well, I'll send you to Jingmen Island later if you want to have a good fight, said Tang Xiu smilingly. Han Qingwu's smile turned stiff. She immediately shook her head and said, no, thanks. Forget it. Tang Xiu chuckled and asked, anyways, did you place a bet as well? How much did you win? I bet 20 million yuan and won more than 100 million, said Han Qingwu. I'm a young rich woman now. Huh? I don't recall your family being short on money, no? Tang Xiu snappily said. Do you really want to live on your own without asking for support from your family? Han Qingwu realized that Tang Xiu knew her grandfather, so he should know about the situation in her family. She then nodded and smilingly said, I usually spend little, but earning myself quite some money is not bad, you know. Tang Xiu only smiled and did not continue talking about this subject, but pointed to Li Laozhan and Chu Xueqing and introduced them to her. Straightforward as he was, Li Laozhan, who won more than 600 million yuan because of Han Qingwu, patted his chest and said, Miss Han, I gotta say thanks to you this time. I won more than 600 million yuan because of you. This old Li probably won't be able to earn this much from my business in a year or two. So I want to invite you to have some snacks tonight, but this old Li will prepare you a lavish thank you gift when I visit Shanghai later. There's no need for this. Han Qingwu smiled. It's your fortune, brother Li. Just choose a good place to have some snacks tonight. It's fine already. Nope, a snack is a must and so is the lavish gift, said Li Laozhan crisply. Anyhow, brother Ji, you're the local snake of Chongxi, so you should know the best place for a night snack, right? This old Li is very happy tonight, so take us to the best place. Brother Ji? Ji Mu shivered inwardly. He had secretly browsed the internet while watching the matches, searching for information about Li Laozhan. The result was quite a shock to him since he learned that Li Laozhan was the iron steel magnate from the northern region, with a net worth of over 10 billion yuan. Though he was a scion from the Ji family, he did not have the qualification to be addressed as brother by this man at all. It was more appropriate if it was his father. He simply benefited from associating with someone else. Ji Mu secretly glanced at Tang Xiu and saw that the latter nodded to him. He then let out a dry smile and said, I won quite a lot tonight, too, brother Li. You are originally a guest, so treating several brothers should be on me as the host. Whenever brother Li has some time to spare in the future, feel free to invite us. Tonight was a night of harvest and thus became a pleasant night. It was already 1:30 when the five finished the night snack. Tang Xiu drank a lot of wine and felt a bit drunk since he had not forced the alcohol out of his body. As for Li Laozhan and Chu Xuecheng, both of them drank a lot, so Ji Mu tried to find a few Ji family's men to escort them and book a good hotel in advance when they left. However, Li Laozhan dragged Tang Xiu at parting time to tell him that he wanted to see him tomorrow and go to Shanghai together. Tang Xiu did not ask for what affair he was going to tend to, while Li Laozhan himself did not explain anything. Chapter 728, Strange and Unusual Leads. The next day. When the red sun rose from the east, Tang Xiu woke up in a daze from his lodging bed. The place he spent the night was a luxurious villa belonging to Ji Mu, who even changed the main bedroom bedding and gave the room to Tang Xiu, while he himself spent the night in a guest room on the first floor. Knock, knock. The door was knocked, and as Tang Xiu opened it, he saw Han Qingwu smilingly standing outside while holding her handbag. "You got up early?" asked Tang Xiu. "Not too early," said Han Qingwu after entering the bedroom behind Tang Xiu. "I heard some sounds from your room, so I came over. Anyways, are we going back to Shanghai directly or having a stroll around Chengxi? Yu Hong called this morning and she was kinda complaining." Tang Xiu thought about it and then asked, "Is there something urgent for you to hurry back? If you don't, let's return in the afternoon or tonight." "All right," said Han Qingwu immediately. "Okay." Tang Xiu readily agreed. He hesitantly agreed last night to return back together to Shanghai with Li Laozhan, so he was going to call him directly later. However, Han Qingwu's following words made him give up on making the call. "Let's have breakfast first, Tang Xiu. After which, how about accompanying me to the ancient town in Yendang? I heard the scenic view there is great, and I've always wanted to have a look. I haven't had a chance to do so until now due to tons of things I needed to tend to. While in passing, I'm gonna call Yu Hong too, so we can have lunch together." Tang Xiu pondered and said, "I'm afraid I'll have to attend to some important matters shortly. By then, I'd like you to approve my leave later." Upon hearing it, Han Qingwu immediately rolled her eyes at him in a charming manner. With an expression of being at a loss whether she had to cry or laugh, she said, "To think that you are actually haggling over this thing with me. Humph, so be it then. Who told me to be in a good mood in these 2 days? All right, I promise you." Tang Xiu was left speechless. He did have a lot of things to take care of in the near future, nonetheless. On the one hand, he had to ponder about making more money, while in the other, the tender for the magnificent Tang Corporation's construction project in Shanghai was going to be held as well, and a lot of things must be handled by then. There was also one other thing. He did not go to Jingmen Island to see Gu Yan to celebrate the Chinese New Year before, so he planned to go there in the near future. If there was more time to spare, he also wanted to go to Nine Dragons Island while in passing. After washing his face and rinsing his mouth, Tang Xiu came to the first floor with Han Qingwu. There, he saw Ji Mu in an apron taking 2 dishes out of the kitchen. "Brother Tang, Miss Han, you two are already up. Anyways, come and have breakfast. It's my cooking today, so you gotta try and enjoy it," said Ji Mu cheerfully. "You did the cooking?" asked Tang Xiu with a strange expression. Ji Mu straightened up his chest and proudly said, "Of course. I was originally learned it to pick up some hot chicks." Cough, cough. "Well, to make someone fall in love with me, hence I spent quite an effort to learn cooking. There's a sentence I kinda believe the most: a man can conquer his woman as long as he can seize her stomach." Pfft. Han Qingwu could not help giggling, but Tang Xiu burst into roaring laughter. Who would have thought that the respected big playboy of Chengxi City, the young master of the Ji family, Ji Mu, turned out to have learned cooking just to flirt with girls? 4 dishes and 1 soup, paired with meat and veggies. Ji Mu did everything thoroughly, even serving fruits and dessert on the table. He seemed to be afraid that Tang Xiu and Han Qingwu would not enjoy the dishes he made, so he also prepared hot milk and bread on the side. Wow, it's really delicious. Han Qingwu was not a foodie, but she wolfed the meal down this time. Tang Xiu tasted a few mouthfuls and praised, "It seems that your wife will be blessed in the future. I'm glad you like it." Ji Mu let out an embarrassed smile.
Ah.
That's right. What are you planning to do today? Stroll with Han Qingwu and then return to Shanghai in the afternoon, said Tang Xiu. Also, Li Laozhan told me last night that he wants to return with me. Ji Mu looked at Han Qingwu, who was lowering her head to eat the dish, and smilingly said, "Since you're going shopping with Miss Han, then I won't be the third wheel, brother Tang. Anyways, if you're going to spend a couple more days in Changxi, do call me. I don't have a plan to stay longer here, so I can't send you off by then. But I'll be visiting you again in Shanghai later if I have time. By the way, don't be over-polite toward me later." Tang Xiu waved his hand. "We're going to have a drink together if there's time." "All right." A joyful feeling blossomed inside Ji Mu's heart after hearing it. He felt that what he had done yesterday was really worth it. Yandang Ancient Town. Tang Xiu accompanied Han Qingwu for most of the morning until noon. The duo then picked a restaurant and waited for Yu Hong to catch up. After swallowing her complaints, they then had lunch together. Originally, Yu Hong proposed to go boating in the afternoon together, but Tang Xiu received a call and gave up on the plan. "Are you sure?" While holding the phone, Tang Xiu asked with eyes lit up. Mouse's voice came from the phone, "I'm absolutely sure, boss. I spent quite a lot of money to buy the information from a senior executive of the Brain Assembly Biotech. Do you want to know how much I spent? 6 million. That greedy bastard actually demanded 6 million yuan. Let alone 6 million, even 60 million is still worth the news," said Tang Xiu in a deep voice. "Anyways, I'll immediately send someone to contact you. You'll be in charge of directing them to keep an eye on Xie Jiqiang for me. Call me at once when he makes contact with those SOE people." "Are you not going to come personally, boss?" asked Mouse. "This is a huge deal. I'm in Changxi right now, and it will take 1 hour to get back," said Tang Xiu. "Just tell me the address and I'll find you when I get there." "Got it." After hanging up, Tang Xiu looked at the enthusiastic Han Qingwu and said, "There's an urgent matter that I need to hurry back to Shanghai to. I'm afraid I can't accompany your boating." "Han Qingwu, are you going to go back with me or will you go back later?" "Since you're going back, then I'll go with you," said Han Qingwu without thinking. "What is this important matter that you have to rush back so urgently, Tang Xiu?" asked Yu Hong with a dissatisfied expression. "It's not easy for Qingwu to visit Changxi, and even I asked for leave for this occasion. Why don't you accompany her to have some fun here? Qingwu, Tang Xiu may have things to tend to, so just let him rush back first. Do you think that I can't accompany you?" About this, Han Qingwu looked a bit hesitating. "That's right. What Yu Hong said is true, you should stay here and have some fun. Loosening and relaxing your mood so you can do your activities better later," said Tang Xiu. Han Qingwu still hesitated, before she eventually agreed. After all, her good sister had specially asked for a leave just to accompany her. She would hurt her if she were to leave. At 1600 hours. Tang Xiu, Li Laozhan, and Chu Xueqing had already arrived at Shanghai. On the way there, Tang Xiu inquired clearly the purpose of the two for visiting Shanghai. It was to discuss some business deals, and Tang Xiu agreed to gather with them 2 days later before rushing to the address Mouse gave him. Jingning District, Kanugsha Pharmaceuticals. The place had a good environment and strategic location and boasted a large area. Tang Xiu learned from the intel that this small company was a subsidiary of the Brain Assembly Biotech, and was also where its pharmaceutical factory was located. Xie Jiqiang had even bought the land as well. "So, how was it? Is Xie Jiqiang inside?" After catching sight of Mouse, who was acting furtively like a thief, Tang Xiu asked the fella directly. Mouse handed over a cigarette and personally lit it up for Tang Xiu, and then said, he has been inside for more than 4 hours, and has yet to come out. Our men have been keeping an eye on the entire Konugsha Pharmaceuticals, so he's definitely still inside. He has a secret lab there according to that sky-high price information I bought. What about those SOE people? Is there any movement? Asked Tang Xiu again.
Yeah.
A total of 2 groups have been here in these 4 hours. One of them is from that SOE company, consisting of 4 or 5 people. Their identities, however, are still a mystery. I've already assigned some men to investigate them, but there's no result as of yet. Tang Xiu knitted his brows and said, what you mean is, the other group is not from SOE? They should not be, said Mouse. I've investigated all those from SOE who have sneaked into Shanghai, so I'm sure this group is not one of them. I think it's highly likely this group is also after the genetic particles. Since I can buy a senior executive of the Brain Assembly Biotech, it is very likely that some other forces are keeping an eye on this company to investigate the existence of this genetic particle. What you said makes sense. Tang Xiu nodded. Anyways, let's not act rashly. We'll first observe the reactions from the other forces. That's right, did those SOE people and the other groups notice our men? I guarantee you that what I've secretly arranged can never be found out, said Mouse with a smile. All right, keep an eye on this place, regardless of whether they are from the SOE, Xie Jiqiang, or from other forces. Tang Xiu nodded. This gene particle is not your ordinary stuff, and regardless of which force obtains it, I'm afraid they will be able to train a huge number of masters in a very short time. Not to mention that if this gene particle were to spread widely, it will definitely affect the power constellation around the world. I don't want to see such a situation. Mouse understood Tang Xiu's intention, as he also knew the power of this so-called gene particle. According to the boasting of the Bot Brain Assembly Biotech senior executive, obtaining the gene particle was tantamount to getting a large number of armed forces, which was equal to having more control, power, and wealth. That's right. We have yet to notice anyone from the military. They just mysteriously disappeared. Tang Xiu stared blankly before frowning and saying, is there a chance that one of the other groups who came here is from the military? Unlikely. Mouse shook his head. Then check it out. Investigate anyone who has the power to spy on the gene particle, including those from the military, ordered Tang Xiu. Got it. Mouse nodded. Tang Xiu did not stay there. After hopping on the car, he looked at Mo, who was sitting on the driver's seat, and directly ordered, send some men to bring 2 sets of night suits. We're going to move tonight. Chapter 729, Helpless. The moonlight shone like water as the slight chill bit people. Jingning District. Outside the high outer walls that surrounded Konugsha Pharmaceutical, 2 ghostly figures silently approached and easily climbed a bleak big tree. Just like 2 gusts of dark wind, they jumped from the high branches onto the iron sheet stacked on the wall. Put this on. In the hidden corner, Tang Xiu took out an invisible talisman and handed it to Mo, who was also wearing a night outfit. Mo did not even ask Tang Xiu what it was and directly pasted it on his neck, and then whispered, Boss, this Konugsha Pharmaceutical appears to have only a few security guards on the surface, but there are many people hiding in the dark. The most important thing is that there should be monitoring equipment everywhere. We'll be discovered unless we dash at full speed. Tang Xiu just smiled in response, patted his shoulder and said in a toned-down voice, just remember. You must not speak no matter what happens. And don't make any sound. With that said, he went straight out of the iron sheet under Mo's gaze. Even though there were 4 patrolling security guards in the distance holding flashlights, he did not even try to avoid them. This, Mo's head was full of confusion, for he could not understand why his boss was exposing their position. But he still grabbed his sharp dagger and appeared beside Tang Xiu. Once the 4 security guards rushed at them, he would kill them lightning fast. What followed, however, made him dumbfounded. The 4 patrolling security guards just stood in line and looking around, as if they did not see Tang Xiu and him at all, flashing their flashlights while looking around and passing by them. Even after the 4 security guards disappeared in the distant corner, Mo Ao had still not recovered from his astonishment. Tang Xiu only smiled and gently patted his shoulder, then immediately went inside. After walking for several meters forward, he saw a dozen surveillance cameras and then led Mo Ao to swaggeringly waltz in front of the camera. Curse it! Mo Ao gulped down and followed Tang Xiu to pass by the other 4 security guards, where he subconsciously raised his hand and touched the invisible talisman hanging on his chest. Although he was a cultivator with a body filled with power, he did not know any magical spells nor any talisman's magical functions at all. He wanted to ask about it, but when he recalled Tang Xiu's warning a while ago, he could only suppress the urge inside. Konugsha Pharmaceuticals grounds were very large and there were many buildings inside. There were even rows of factories at the rear, while one thing that made Tang Xiu and Mo Ao speechless was that the entrance they just passed through was only the front yard. They continued going deeper without stopping, and finally found the main gate with a line of sentry posts. Taking advantage of the time between patrols to enter and exit the second gate, they successfully sneaked through to the third gate sentry and then stopped before the fourth gate sentry. What should we do now? Mo Ao followed Tang Xiu to a remote corner and asked with a voice that only they could hear. There were 6 security guards standing before the 4th sentry post, but there were no guards coming in and out at all. What made Tang Xiu and Mo Ao speechless was that once they crossed through the 4th sentry post, there was only a corridor cast of steel that went all the way to the entrance of the 5-story building with all the windows sealed. Tang Xiu had already released his spiritual sense, covering a 200+ meters area in the surrounding. Despite wearing an invisible talisman and being able to fly, there was no answer he could give Mo Ao. No way to get inside. Tang Xiu shook his head after observing with his spiritual sense. There was no one else in the entire 5-story building but 18 sleeping security guards. According to the intel, Xie Jiqian came here noon yesterday and had yet to leave, but he could not find him at this time. Tang Xiu guessed that there should be an underground lab, but he could not even enter the inside, let alone the underground lab. At a time like this, he did not want to alert the enemies, because he had yet to figure out whether this was only a smoke screen left by Xie Jiqian. Gene particles were something Tang Xiu regarded as very important, as he did not want to see a change in the power constellation pattern in the world. He did not want to see countless mutated human emerge in the world. In the case the gene particles had any side effects, many people would be harmed by it. Let's leave. We'll find another way. Tang Xiu sighed inwardly and grabbed Mo Ao's shoulder as their figures instantly soared to the sky and flew out of Konugsha Pharmaceuticals, in just a few breaths. Less than 2 minutes after, 15 hazy figures rushed out from the 4th gate sentry. All of them wore full-body black steel armor and helmet, with cold weapons in hands. There's no one here, boss. One of the middle-aged men in armor reported through the intercom after searching everywhere for a long time. Tens of meters deep underground, Xie Jiqiang sat in front of the monitor as a chilling light flashed in his eyes. The thermal detector would never make a mistake. His subordinate previously reported that it detected 2 humanoid-shaped energies, which showed that some people had just sneaked inside. Keep searching and find them even if you have to dig deep into the ground, said Xie Jiqiang in a heavy voice. A few kilometers away from Konugsha Pharmaceuticals, Tang Xiu and Mo Ao appeared in a residential building. As they entered the apartment, the monkey-like mouse greeted them with red eyes. Did you just personally go into action, boss? I did, but no gains, said Tang Xiu. Xie Jiqiang has managed to fully seal the entire area of Konugsha Pharmaceuticals, there's no way to sneak inside. I've read all the information from you, and yet we were unable to enter that building installed with the infrared mechanism. I have yet to gather much information on Xie Jiqiang. I can tell this man is very cautious and discreet from the intel. He never leaves a tail. Even the data of his last 4 years of life is forged. We can't figure it out, so he should have been out of the country during those 4 years. Then there's no need to investigate him for now since you can't find it. Tang Xiao nodded and asserted, remember, I must get that gene particle. This thing is too horrible, so we must be the ones to get it. Notify your men to move back for 2 kilometers from the current surveillance perimeter. Do keep in mind, all of our intelligence personnel must not be exposed. Rest assured, boss. I'll definitely execute it, said Mouse cautiously with a nod. Tang Xiao no longer spoke and quickly changed his clothes and left with Mo. This time, he did not head to Paradise Manor but returned directly to Blue Star Villa. In the next morning, Tang Xiao left home in great spirits and went to Shanghai University on foot. He hardly studied recently due to being delayed by many things, and he was not prepared to do anything else before the construction project tender bid, hence he would use this tranquil time to learn more things. In the library, Tang Xiao was quietly reading books on finance and economics. Although the morning class he attended was over already, he always felt that he had forgotten something. Buzz, buzz. His phone that was set to on vibrate mode suddenly buzzed. Tang Xiao took it and looked at the number displayed on the screen, and immediately remembered what he had forgotten. He received a text message from Yuan Chuling this morning, saying that he would come to Shanghai University and that he had something he needed to discuss with him. And the call now was exactly from Yuan Chuling. Tang Xiao did not answer it and hung up. After which, he sent a short message to Yuan Chuling saying to wait for him at the Shanghai University's entrance. Then, he put away the book and took all the books he had selected before to the registration counter. After registering the borrowed books, he headed straight to the entrance of Shanghai University. Wow, you're doing well, Fatty Yuan. A belle in a great car, eh? Awesomely romantic. Tang Xiao immediately teased Yuan Chuling the moment he saw him standing by a white Porsche Cayenne while hugging a gentle and slender, pretty girl. Yuan Chuling released the girl in his embrace the moment he saw Tang Xiao and grinned, big bro, I'm not gonna take your limelight. Besides, from where would I have the capital if you did not invest in me? Anyways, this is Xiaoting, my babe. Xiaoting, this is the boss I often mention to you, my big bro, Tang Xiao. Wei Xiaoting gracefully nodded and said, I've heard a lot about you, Tang Xiao. Tang Xiao nodded to her in response and immediately asked Yuan Chuling, what made you rush here? I'm a good student at the campus, so don't delay my studies. Yuan Chuling rolled his eyes and snappily said, if you're a good student, there will be no bad students under the sky nowadays. I heard a couple of days ago that the dignified big boss of the magnificent Tang Corporation, who has been studying at Shanghai University for half a year, turns out to have appalling attendance. Tang Xiao couldn't help laughing and asked, you have contacted Han Qingwu, haven't you? Woot, you deserve to be called boss, big bro. Yuan Chuling grinned. To think that you've actually captured teacher Han. Anyways, she seems to be quite resentful towards you, though. She said that you're too busy to have time to please her. Fuck off. Tang Xiao cursed. Just tell me, what the hell are you here for? I'm going back to the library if you keep farting. Yuan Chuling rubbed his hands and smilingly said, well, I need some money. Huh? Tang Xiao was stunned. You need some money? What for? Our fitness center is very popular and earned quite a lot last year. But I'm not going to pay you its dividends for the time being, though. I want to open another branch, so I took a look at the address. But the investment needed is kinda big. I already asked 10 million from my old man and, added with the earned money, I only have a total of 16 million now. But it's not enough. You don't have enough money, so why are you rushing to open a branch in the first place? Asked Tang Xiao with a helpless expression. Got no way out, man. I want to develop this fitness center as my career. Said Yuan Chuling. Besides, the location for the new branch is really good. After surveying it, I found it has 2 neighborhoods nearby, and both of them are upscale residential areas. Firstly, it has a high visitor flow rate, and secondly, the rent for the shop is cheap. The owner of that shop was hit by bad luck or something, hence he's been wanting to rent his store. How much do you need, then? Asked Tang Xiu. 3 million, said Yuan Chuling. But if you have too much money to burn, then add 2 million more. Chapter 730 Research Breakthrough. Having ambitions to advance and improve oneself is always a good thing, but one must act after calculating one's capability. It was Tang Xiu's view. He would definitely not be in the mood to respond if it was an ordinary friend asking him to provide several million yuan. But Yuan Chuling was not an ordinary friend. Back then he fought for him, objecting and fighting the school's decision to dismiss him, and eventually became his sworn, die-hard buddy. Tang Xiu pulled a cigarette. While smoking, he used his mobile banking to transfer 5 million yuan into Yuan Chuling's account, and then calmly said, "There's no need to run over to find me for this kind of trivial matter later. Calling me is just fine." Yuan Chuling was a bit touched inside, though he did not reveal it on the surface. A smile climbed up on his chubby face as he spoke to his girlfriend, Wei Xiaoting. "Did you see that? This big brother, boss of mine is really so crisp that I don't have to speak anything. With Big Bro, as our patron, you'll definitely be having a good life if you follow me." Shameful. Wei Xiaoting shot Fatty Yuan charming, white eyes. She immediately looked at Tang Xiu and said, "It's really great for this lump of fat to have you as a big bro. I always heard from him how good you are to him, and I'm witnessing it now. Anyways, do you mind if I address you as Big Bro, like this fatty?" "It's okay. Feel free." Tang Xiu waved his hand. "All right, then. How about having lunch? Can we find some place to have a meal together?" asked Wei Xiaoting with a smile. Tang Xiu did not refuse. He did not spare his time to learn the ability to judge people when he was in the immortal world. But he was very careful and attentive in this aspect after returning to Earth and had quite good progress on this one. He could tell that Wei Xiaoting did not choose to be with Fatty Yuan because he had money, though it was his first time meeting her. Her attitude and the expression in her eyes showed that she really liked Yuan Chuling. In the evening, Tang Xiu received a call from Moe and went to Paradise Manor. Though Moe did not explain the details, through his ecstatic surprised tone in his voice Tang Xiu felt that it should be something good. What surprised him was that just as he arrived at the innermost foreign-style building of Paradise Manor, Moe was not the only one there, as Han Jintong, Shan Zhena, Ouyang Lulu, and Han Qingwu were also present. "All right, is there something urgent that made you call me, Professor Mo?" While tightly holding lab glassware that was half filled with dark red blood, Moe replied with excitement and eagerness upon hearing Tang Xiu's inquiry, "There's special active energy within Shanzhena's blood, boss. After researching it, I found this special active energy can slow down the cell division in the human body, and also produces more red blood cells. At the same time, I also found that it contains another thing, some kind of dreadful virus substance, which inherently possesses huge harm toward living things. But if it's fused into the blood, it will evolve into this kind of special energy. You don't need to explain me the details, Professor Mo." Tang Xiu interrupted him. "Just tell me your conclusion. This active energy can slow down the metabolism of living beings and can supplement the internal energy consumption. To put it simply, this active energy can prolong human life if it were to be injected into a human body." After a moment of silence, Tang Xiu slowly asked, "But can a human body accommodate this kind of active energy?" Moe's expression solidified, stunned by the question. He only studied the substances contained in the bloodkin's blood but had yet to experiment on it at all. The possibility he just said was entirely hypothetical, and he would not have acted like this given his disposition and scientific manners he held tight in the past. However, the results of his research on the bloodkin's blood extremely excited him. After all, once he researched it and was finally able to harness this active energy as he had hypothetically predicted, it could lead to a significant increase in humans' life expectancy. It would mean that he had achieved stellar success in scientific research. If this result were to be spread out to all mankind, he would rewrite history and become the greatest scientist in the history of mankind. While looking at Mo's frozen expression, Tang Xiu lightly said, "Professor Mo, to me, the current result and progress of your research is like the journey to the west of priest Tang Xuanzang and his disciples on the quest for the Buddhist scriptures. Just like he could not rescue Sun Wukong who got pressed onto Wuji Mountain, this is only the first step of the journey. We can't deny the fact that you have yet to experiment on this active energy if it is to be injected into the human body. Furthermore, even if you have, whether this active energy can survive in the human body is still unknown. Even if it can survive, will it bring about any side effect? The other point to be considered is, if there are no such side effects and that it could be completely beneficial to humans, there is no way we can promote it to the entire mankind. Such research can never be exposed to outsiders either." Moe was endlessly abashed by Tang Xiu's explanation, but the last sentence still made him somewhat unconvinced as he asked, "Why? You're just conducting the scientific research, but you probably have yet to consider the risks and consequences." Tang Xiu sighed. "With this active energy and abilities contained within the bloodkin's blood, have you thought about the number of bloodkin in the world? How many of them must provide their blood just to increase a human's life expectancy? Furthermore, if the extraction of the active energy is too few, and some powerful figures in the world then learn about it, don't you think it will create turmoil? Can we come out safe and unscathed? Innocent people will get into trouble just because of the wealth they have, and you should know about this truth as well." It was a head-on blow on Mo's excitement. Tang Xiu's words were like just a hammering blow that sobered him. The quantity. And innocent people will fall into troubles just because of the precious things they have. Just these two variables made him dissatisfied, and his unconvinced feelings disappeared. Men were insatiable beings with infinite desires, and greed was the most dreadful desire of all. There were all kinds of misfortune and calamity caused by some sovereigns and emperors for the sake of immortality. Such a desire was much stronger for the people in the modern world. What kind of disaster would happen when people disregard everything to obtain something at all costs? Wouldn't he and Tang Xiu become the very one responsible for the cause of that doom? Cold sweats came out from Mo's forehead as an apologetic look appeared on his old face. He then nodded and said, "I understand, boss." Tang Xiu sighed and said quietly, "Professor Mo, the research is your responsibility, and I do hope you can achieve great results from it. But, we don't have the ability to suppress all human beings, so we can only secretly use the results on our own people. Whether they would have their lifespan increased and can live for a few more years, it will all depend on you." "Our own people? Including myself?" Mo's eyes lit up. He nodded solemnly and said, "Rest assured, boss. I'll do my best." Tang Xiu patted his shoulder. He then looked at Shanjena and said with a faint smile, "Stay here for some more time and work with Professor Moel. I'll gift you something great whenever he achieves a new result. Even though you cannot achieve the prince rank, achieving the rank of count or marquis is not bad, no?" "I'll definitely cooperate with you," said Shanjena excitedly. Tang Xiu nodded in satisfaction. He suddenly looked at Han Jintong and said, "As a matter of fact, you will probably obtain another cultivation technique from your granddaughter in the future given her ability, even if I don't give you one now. However, considering your current age as well as the cultivation condition on Earth, it would be difficult for you to have any great achievements even if you spend a lot of time and energy during your short remaining years. I actually feel that you should just let it go of your mind and enjoy your old age." There was a bitter expression on Han Jintong's face as he replied, "Even if I can't have good achievements, it's still better than staying idly all the time." Besides, my lifespan will still increase if I can only progress by one level. To live longer is always a good thing. I understand. Tang Xiu nodded. Following that, he left the building to say
Goodbye
to Lulu. Just after he left Paradise Manor for a while, there was a call from Han Qingwu asking him to wait outside for a few minutes. Han Qingwu then came with her car to catch up. Is there something? Sitting on the driver's seat, Tang Xiu opened the passenger's window and asked. Han Qingwu did not get off the car and hesitated, and then asked, will you go to the campus and attend classes tomorrow? I should be there if nothing unexpected happens, answered Tang Xiu. But why didn't you spend more time in Changxi? Yu Hong has to work, said Han Qingwu with a smile. All right, I just want to ask you about that and there's nothing else. Anyways, I'm going first. All right. Tang Xiu closed the window and could not help but shake his head. A woman's heart is indeed like a deep ocean, unpredictable. If she just wants to ask me whether I'm going to the campus tomorrow, she just needs to ask by phone, right? Why bother waiting for a few minutes and waste time? The next 2 days passed by without any big events. Tang Xiu did not bother thinking about the issue with Xie Jiqiang and the SOE over the past 2 days, nor did he ask MOE about his research. Instead, he just attended classes, hung around in the cafeteria, visited the library, and then returned to Blue Star Villa. Early in the morning, the first wisp of sunlight shone through the curtains and illuminated the bedroom. Tang Xiu was awakened by the pleasant ringtone of his mobile phone. After connecting it and chatting with Kong Xia for a while, he learned that she would personally come to Shanghai 3 days later to host the construction project's tender bidding. The tender was imminent, while the various procedures for purchasing the plot had also been completed along with the approved documents. They would only need to finalize the construction company who would carry out the project to start it. For the blueprint design, it was Tang Xiu who had personally drawn it, but he only made the outline and sketch of the overall framework, while he left out the details on the distribution of the construction, the specific usage, the segmentation of the buildings, and the type of housing and its specification. Finding the construction company to carry out the project would naturally require them to make adjustments and changes, according to the blueprint he drew. Tang Xiu himself was a master painter and architect, and he had memorized countless buildings in the Immortal world as references. However, he had yet to grasp the essence of modern architectural design in regards to constructing the HQ and industrial park of the magnificent Tang Corporation. Knock, knock. His door was knocked and Zhang Xinlan's voice was heard from the outside. Mr. Tang, there's a guest waiting for you in the living room downstairs. Tang Xiu opened the door. As he looked at Zhang Xinlan, he asked, who is looking for me? Your big sister, Miss Chan, said Zhang Xinlan with a smile. Chan Xiaowan? Tang Xiu's expression moved and immediately came out of the room.